This audio fiction may contain elements not suitable for children. Listener discretion is advised. Present day on the wind-burned desert border. The small group of travelers settled down on the verdant side of the desert border. Ariana prepared their fire. They'd agreed to take the day to rest before they ventured into the desert. Should they become lost, it could prove a deadly mistake.
We can gather some of the nearby fruits, set some traps, and otherwise settle in for the remainder of the evening and night. There should be some small game around here.
All right. Do you need help with any of that? 'Cause I admit, I don't know much about what we'll find. But if I get a look, I can probably figure out what to make us.
The company will be nice.
All right. Then once we get things a little more settled, we can go hunting.
I suppose we can meet back here in a few hours at most, before sunset.
That would make the most sense. It would give the two of you ample time to find game and fruit, as well as Samaya, Rythus, and I time to gather firewood and locate a source of drinking water to fill our water skins.
Yeah, we should have a few hours before sunset at least.
I'll be here.
Are you going to be all right alone?
Probably. Whatever really happens at our camp during the day.
You do realize the folly of tempting Sardat in such a way, yes?
I stand by my statement. I believe I will be fine. It is not as if I am completely defenseless.
Do you want to stay here too?
I'm sure Ari will be fine.
Well, then I suppose we all have plans once we get our things settled in. Ari will watch our things to make sure no wild animals try to rummage through them. Den and I will go gather food. And the three of you will gather firewood and find clean drinking water so we can fill up before heading into the desert.
As I said, I'm fine. You should get going to make certain you're back at camp before nightfall.
You cannot blame us for worrying.
The wood elf woman walked toward the nearby forest. Urius started after Denore.
Try not to hurt anyone that comes by too much, okay?
Hurt?
She's right. We don't know how far any nearby water is.
Rythus left the camp shortly afterward.
I'm sure Urius was simply joking, because you are more capable of self-defense than most would assume of you.
I suppose.
We'll be back soon.
Samaya quickly bade Ariana goodbye, and then she rushed off.
Do not fret over it. Talk to him about it if it still bothers you so once he returns.
Right.
The half-dragon then followed Samaya. Pramod watched and waited. He was unnoticed by the mortals present, as is his nature. As the god of deception, he had a knack for disguising himself and others. He idled patiently as the mortals went about their normal business. And then, when she was alone, he manifested. When the others were just out of sight, a familiar, off-putting sensation filled her. Realizing she was not alone, the red-haired woman began looking around her. She knew there was something ethereal nearby from her past experiences with them. Ariana turned and smiled when the god approached her.
Pramod, what has brought you to the mortal plane this time?
I have a favor to ask of you. And in exchange, I'll grant you a favor of deception.
The god of deception sat beside Ariana. He trusted that the consecrated woman would be eager to help him.
It is nice to know that you do not bear warning. What do you need?
I need you to intervene with a consecrated man. He does not know what he is, and he is distraught. He is favored by me and two other gods, and I have a vested interest in him returning to his birthplace.
And how will I know where that is?
That will soon become obvious. The more important thing for you to concern yourself with is that he is somebody some very evil people want badly, and a promise of understanding who and what he is can sway him.
Pramod, you realize that I do not know who or what he is.
Of course, my mortal cherub. You do not know him personally, but you know him generally.
Generally?
What kind of a deceiving god would I be if all interactions with me were so straightforward?
I suppose you have a point.
You will meet him soon. I am eternally grateful for your fealty.
The god leaned close to the mortal. He kissed her forehead, and then he disappeared. The next morning, on the wind-burned desert border, Ariana sat on her bedroll. She stared off into the desert while she contemplated Pramod's words. The thoughts of how to find the wayward consecrated man weighed on her. She looked forward to the favor from Pramod and being able to embody deception. The gift of subtlety was one that she wanted to possess. The attention she drew often made her unhappy.
Thinking about what happened while you're alone yesterday?
I am thinking about how to find someone who I've never met, who I almost know nothing about, and who the god of deception wants me to find.
Maybe he was fooling you. He is the god of deception, after all.
Pramod wouldn't do that to me.
You seem awfully confident of that.
Perhaps she has reason to be.
Such as what?
Experience.
Experience?
Pramod has never really misled me, believe it or not.
That I find hard to believe, even though...
Samaya looked to Urias. Urias glanced at Samaya and nodded.
It doesn't seem so far-fetched, considering what we know, does it?
But he is the god of deception. He deceives. Why hasn't he led Ari astray?
What do you mean?
She gets him often when she asks the gods for advice, apparently.
Often enough that he knows her by name, if our interaction with him at Geshink Springs is anything to go by.
Pramod? An actual god? You three have seen and talked to?
Yeah?
And you did not tell the rest of us?
We were hoping for more information about that gifting spirit, and Ari thought to ask a god. Pramod answered her call, so...
You summoned a god?
All consecrated can do it. Really, anybody can if you're willful enough.
You summoned a god? Huh. You. Summoned a god.
This is quite some information to take in at once.
Multiple times. I can do it right now.
And the god who visited you is asking you for a favor. This has been a bizarre experience.
It has, indeed.
We're sorry?
It's all right. But this is a lot to take in.
We're looking for somebody who the god of deception helped consecrate, and that is mostly all you know about him.
That is hardly much information at all to work with. It would not be easy to find this man.
That doesn't change the fact that we have to get going. We don't want to wander through the desert at night.
Yeah, we should get going.
Did Pramod tell you when you would find this man?
No, he did not. Aside from soon.
That'd be a bit too straightforward, I assume. All right, well, we won't find him if we don't get moving.
In several short moments, the campsite was cleared. Everything was packed up, the campfire was extinguished, and the travelers were prepared to set off.
I wonder when I'm going to find this man.
I'm not sure. But Pramod said you would for certain, and he's never steered you wrong before, right?
He has sent me on several adventures. but he has never outright lied to me.
Bythos was grateful the desert winds were behind him. He had grown mostly accustomed to biting, sandy gusts throughout his life, but that did not make them any more pleasant. The gray-skinned man walked along toward where he felt certain the desert ended. Denore turned and stared out at the sand-covered flats. The wood elf woman blinked repeatedly. She was uncertain she was seeing what she wanted to believe it to be.
Is that a person walking through the desert?
It is. Wonder where they're going.
Urius strained to differentiate the landscape from a possible figure in the desert winds.
I don't see them yet, so I couldn't even guess.
Do you think the chances are good?
It is possible, but then most things are when dealing with gods and the consecrated.
See? Pramod has never led me astray.
Ariana clapped her hands together, then she excitedly hurried toward the figure. Later that day, in the sand-touched Outpost Inn, in the nearest tavern to the edge of the desert, Ariana sat with Bythos.
Yes, the god of deception has sent me to meet you, and he has told me that he wants you to return to your birthplace.
And you know where that is? You know what I am?
I have been there. I know a noble family of your people, in fact. Pramod assured me that you are a consecrated and that he wants you to go home.
I see. And that is why people are drawn to me? I am a consecrated. And all of that divine energy makes me seem appealing and magnetic to those who do not have such energy?
That, and not everybody has seen a gemstone elf, let alone been to their homeland.
And why are you offering your help?
Pramod asked me to help, and in exchange, I get a favor from Pramod.
Why would you want a favor from the god of deception?
Because I cannot tell my friends from my admirers, and that saddens me. When I have myself the gift of subtlety, I can figure out those answers.
I see. And you somehow think taking the guessing out of life will just make you happier? Guessing is all part of the mortal experience. None of us know what the gods have designed. And none of us know everything about mortals either. From what I know about you, you seem to have most things in life figured out, but the truth of relationships is something you struggle with.
That is a lot of information for us knowing the other for less than a day.
I'm an observer, and you seem to struggle with relationships that aren't with other consecrated. You're fine with me, but with your friends, you are still guarded when you have never been given a reason to be. With strangers, you tend to avoid them.
I see.
I have to figure out who I was supposed to be before being left at the Celestial Sundry Temple. I have to figure out a lot of things, and I will die before I get all of the answers. Like all mortals. It's terrifying and beautiful.
You remind me of my brother. He has a similar laid-back and humble outlook on everything.
When you worship all of the gods equally, you learn how insignificant we all truly are. If you cannot accept that, then you despair about things that are out of your control.
Bythos, if you would like to return home, my friends and I will assist you. I have a standing invitation from the House of the Occultist Spies. I can visit whenever I want. And I believe my friend Eniko told me a story about you.
About me?
He told a story of an infant who was abducted from a nobleman. The infant was a twin, and his parents never stopped searching for him.
You believe me to be that child?
How else did you get from an archipelago in the middle of the ocean to a desert temple? It makes some amount of sense.
Why would somebody take me from my home to a temple? That makes really no sense.
It doesn't. But given that Pramod is insistent on your importance, I'm willing to take a leap of faith and believe him about what he says about you.
That makes sense. And who are we to argue with a god? Take me to my birthplace, please.
Of course!
Simultaneously, across the room in the Sand-Touched Outpost Inn,
You really think he is who Pramod was talking about?
I cannot imagine why he would not be. It would be quite the coincidence otherwise.
If not, she may be wasting her time.
I doubt Ari would see it that way.
He has no idea he's a gemstone elf. How is that possible?
Maybe he has never heard the term before. We are in the desert, after all. Quite some ways from the islands they call home. I do not know how he arrived here, but perhaps that has some explanation for why Pramod bade Ariana seek him out.
I suppose. Maybe.
Oh, don't worry. I'm certain Ari can take care of herself. She's sweet and trusting,
But more than capable of protecting herself, if need should arise.
Who would be worried that she isn't?
Urius glanced sidelong at Rythus.
Some of us are more protective of her than others.
She can be too trusting, though.
Don't worry. Everything will be all right.
What are the chances Pramod will appear again and tell her that this Bythos man is the one he sent her to help?
That seems like it would be too straightforward for the god of deception.
So even if she summons him?
He might, if she specifically summons him to ask. But I'm going to be honest when I say that I'm not so sure just how deep their relationship runs in that sort of regard.
You don't think gods lying with mortals is simply a myth?
When it comes to her and Pramod, I have no idea what I'm willing to believe.
No. No, that can't be true.
I'd be inclined to agree with you.
It could be, though, right?
There is a possibility.
It'd explain why she feels so confident.
I suppose.
Ariana approached the table where her friends sat. She smiled warmly.
I hope that none of you mind the decision I've made. I want to take Eneko and Riki up on their offer to visit.
Ariana turned and looked at Bythos.
He has never been there. I am worried about him trying to get there on his own.
You don't think he could manage it?
If he is who Pramod spoke of, then there may be reasons to worry about him being on his own.
That does make sense.
It does. Which is why, if you feel so strongly about this, we shall accompany you.
Where the gemstone elves live is pretty.
It is indeed.
And we weren't about to let you go on your own anyhow.
Of course not.
When do we leave?
I think as soon as possible would be best.
Go tell Bythos that we are leaving soon, then.
Thank you!
Ariana turned and hurried across the room once more. From beyond the veil of the ethereal plane, the god of deception watched.
And now that things are going my way, soon things are going to be incredibly interesting to watch. For the next several generations of mortals.